The most dominant myth is one connected to a 12th century historian called Geoffrey of Monmouth, who wrote something called the History of Kings of Britain, the History of the Kings of Britain, which was supposedly one of the first histories of the country, although a lot of it was made up. But he wrote about Albion, so being this land of giants who basically ruled over Albion until the arrival of Brutus, who was a Trojan war hero, who turned up and he slayed Gog and Magog, who were the kind of two lead giants of the time, and he colonized the land and he renamed it Britain. But then other scholars and poets wanted to fill in the gaps, and they created a kind of backstory about how did those giants get there. And then you get this really fascinating story about Albina and her 30 sisters, and they were supposedly the daughters of a Syrian king. In some stories they're Greek, but they're not from this land, and they're known for being extraordinarily beautiful but very disobedient, and they plot to murder their spouses in the night. Mm-hmm. And they're found out and they're exiled from Syria, and they sail, the 7 seas in small boats, and they arrive and they land on this beautiful uninhabited island, which Albina names after herself. She calls it Albion. And it's quite interesting because there's obviously a kind of misogynistic aspect to this tale. But, it's almost like they're living in a kind of feminist utopia, and there's a lot of detail about how they're learning to kind of commune with the land and hunt its wild animals and things like that. And then they procreate with demons.